Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. We're going to do right where we picked off. Right where we picked off. We're going to pick up right where we left off earlier today. We're still on July 6th. The preliminary hearings last all day through the 8th. So, um, we still have a little bit of the prelim to go before we get into the actual trial. And I'm getting more and more excited, even though this is a little bit boring. I like the objections. I like Shapiro. Anyway, let me share my screen. And let's go.
We're once again on the record in the case of People versus Simpson. The defendant is present with counsel. The people are represented. Detective Van Adder, if you'd retake the witness stand, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I remind you that you remain under oath.
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro.
Further questions at this time?
No further questions? Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Van Adder, I'm kind of curious. You said that you were very surprised by a maid not being there on the property. And that you didn't, on cross-examination, I think you indicated that you did not consider the possibility that she would have some days off. Did you expect someone to always be on that property?
Well, from the appearance of the property with lights on and vehicles parked there, yes, I thought someone was there.
And when you say vehicles parked there, you mean the one on Rockingham, the Bronco outside?
Well, that, as well as two other vehicles that were parked inside the compound in the driveway, which would be on the Rockingham Drive.
There were multiple vehicles inside the driveway?
There were two other vehicles that I could see, yes.
And you could see that from the Ashford Gate?
Well, no, I saw that from the Rockingham gate. When I walked over to that area, I could see it.
When you walked over and you were looking at the Bronco,
That's correct,
you could
yes.
see through that gate?
Yes.
Can you show us on that defense diagram where you saw those other cars?
Certainly, the vehicles were parked up in this area here, which is the little jut out that looked like a parking area for vehicles. And looking through the gate, you could see the vehicles parked there.
For the record, the witnesses pointed to an area that is actually just above what's marked the word driveway on the diagram, that is the southernmost portion of the property. Sir, counsel was asking you about using the chronolog forms.
Yes?
What is the difference between a blank piece of paper and the form that you use for your chronological log?
Nothing, except there's lines on the chronological log, and there's a heading that says chronological log.
So the difference between a blank page and the chronolog form is horizontal lines and a heading.
Yes.
What information is usually required to be on a chronological log? When you make an entry, what are you supposed to put in that entry?
The entries are mainly very general entries as to the day and quite possibly the time that you make a follow-up, but you never put the information that you receive from that on the log.
That just records what you did, not the results of what you did.
Exactly.
And did you look at the chronological log that's been compiled so far in this case?
When it was in front of me, yes.
Okay. What is the difference between what you've got on these blank pages written down in the chronological log than you would have had on the form with the lines on it?
There would be no difference.
So you got the same information on this chronolog that you would have had you used the form with the horizontal lines and a heading.
Yes.
Now the photographs of the Bronco, I wonder if I could inquire of the clerk, do we have the defense exhibits here?
I have all the defense exhibits.
Could you bring them? Thank you. How many pictures of the Ford Bronco in its position on the street were taken, sir?
I don't know.
More than one?
Several, I would say, yes.
Do you remember what each and every one of them looked like right now?
No, I do not.
You requested the criminalist to make sure that photographs were taken of that Bronco. I think
Yes.
you so testified. What was your intention with respect to taking those photographs of the Bronco?
To document any evidence and the location of the vehicle and the identity of the vehicle.
Defense exhibit, I don't know which one this is, Your Honor, but
Is that the one that has 4 photos on it?
Yes, Your Honor.
That is F.
Thank you very much. Showing you defense exhibit F. Do you recognize what's shown there, sir?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's 4 pictures labeled 1 through 4 of different perspectives of the same vehicle, the Ford Bronco.
Okay, and showing you defense exhibit C. You recognize what's shown there?
Yes, I do.
What's shown there?
It's the Ford Bronco, the west wall and Rockingham gate to Mr. Simpson's residence.
Looking at those photographs, sir, defense counsel, I think, asked you whether the pictures taken of the Ford Bronco at your direction through the criminalist were accurate pictures of the position of that car as you saw it on Rockingham. Do you recall that question, sir?
Yes.
With respect to whether or not the car had been moved from the position in which you first observed it, is it the case that the car was not moved before those photographs were taken?
The car was not moved.
Can you see in those photographs the angle that you've described for us earlier with the rear end jutting out a little bit, appearing to have been parked in haste?
Yes, I can.
Show us where.
If you look at pictures number 2 and number 4, it shows the front wheel of the vehicle to be setting actually on the paved curb section, part of the paved curb section and the asphalt, and the back wheel, the passenger side, to be strictly on the asphalt, farther west than the front wheel.
And are either of the wheels up next to the curb?
No, they are not.
I think you earlier indicated that at some point you saw the children leaving the house.
Yes.
Do you recall what transpired in terms of arranging for their care and custody while you were in the house on 360 Rockingham?
Yes, I do.
Can you please tell us?
After Detective Lang had a conversation with Mr. Simpson, Mr. Simpson had indicated to Detective Lang that he wished the children to be with his daughter, Arnell. She was notified of that, contacted Al Cowlings. He responded to the location, and they went to West Los Angeles Division and picked up the children.
Do you know when the children arrived at 360 Rockingham with Al Cowlings?
I know approximately. It would have been around, I believe, around 7 o'clock in the morning.
And how long after that did you determine that the area should be sealed for the purpose of securing a search warrant?
I had actually come to that conclusion a little earlier than that. I was waiting for the criminalist to respond there to do a presumptive blood test for me, and after that was done was when I closed down the area and secured the area.
And you closed down, do you remember what time it was approximately when you secured the area?
It would have been between 7 and 7:30. I left the location approximately 7:30, so it was before I left there. So it would have been sometime in the range of probably 7:10 to 7:15, something like that.
Shortly after Al Cowlings got there with the children.
Yes.
Counsel asked you on cross-examination about tactical support, I think it was mentioned, with respect to, in that instance, the effort made to take the defendant into custody. You recall that question, sir?
Yes, I do.
How was that situation different from the one that you found confronting you at 360 Rockingham in the early morning hours of June 13th?
Well, a tactical situation is totally different from the situation we were facing there. I believe this to be an emergency situation which requires, I felt, action to be taken. A tactical situation is if you have a location that you know you have a suspect, a hostage, or whatever, if these are known facts, you immediately request uniform to respond. You notify a supervisor. Detectives are required to put on vests and what we call raid jackets, Los Angeles police raid jackets that readily identify us as police officers. This was not this situation at all. This situation was something that I felt was an emergency that needed to be handled immediately.
And in this situation, did you believe that you were pursuing a suspect into the residence at 360 Rockingham?
I really didn't know what I was pursuing in there. I had no specific suspect in mind at that point. My main feeling at that point, coupled with all the information I had, was this was a situation that someone could be injured. We could have another murder scene. We could have a murder-suicide scene. We could have people that needed assistance. And that was my feeling.
So would it be fair to say, sir, that you were concerned not so much for your safety, but for the safety of someone else you might find inside the compound?
Objection rating suggested.
Sustained.
Were you concerned for officer safety at the moment you decided to go over the wall?
Not at all. I wouldn't have let anybody enter that location the way we were with that if I felt there was a safety problem at that time.
Well, if you were concerned for someone else's safety, sir, why didn't you call an ambulance right then, before you went over the wall?
I would never call an ambulance until an area has been cleared and secured. I don't want to bring someone else in that could be in danger. I wouldn't do that.
So until you found out what you had back there, you were not about to call an ambulance?
No, not until I assessed the situation and actually knew what I was dealing with. At that point, again, I didn't really know what I was dealing with. I had certain knowledge that gave me a feeling that this was an emergency situation and something that had to be dealt with immediately. And at that point, I didn't know whether I had people down. I didn't know whether I had, again, another scene, someone injured. I didn't know.
Yes.
You were asked earlier, sir, about the method in which Ronald Goldman was notified, and how long it took to do that?
You mean the family of Mr. Goldman?
I have been waving hi and goodbye to y'all this whole time, and I didn't realize my camera's not on.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you. And when you arrived at the crime scene at about 4 a.m., were you aware of the identity of the male victim who was found near Nicole Simpson?
No.
Was anyone, to your knowledge, at the crime scene aware of his identity?
No.
At what point was his identity made known to you?
I actually found out his identity while I was at West Los Angeles Station. It would have been somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock that the coroner's representatives had responded to the location, and they had identified him from identification that was on him.
So when the coroner's investigator arrived and found identification on him, that's when his identity was determined?
That's correct.
Do you know what time that was approximately?
Well, I got notification while I was at West LA Division. It would have been after 10 o'clock, I'm sure, that day.
With respect to, let's say for a moment that you knew that there was a suspect in 360 Rockingham Avenue, what would you have done?
Objection, House respectfully.
Not, this is an expert witness, Your Honor, who knows, he's describing actually the distinction between the situation he was confronted with and that which he was questioned by Mr. Shapiro.
Are you asking how he would have handled it differently if he was pursuing a suspect and he knew he was pursuing a suspect before he entered the premises?
Yes, Your Honor.
The objection's overruled.
Well, that would have become a tactical situation then. I would have made notification to the West Los Angeles watch commander, requested uniforms to respond to the location. I would have placed officers around the residence to secure the residence. I would have had the detectives there put on vests and raid jackets, and I would have contacted probably our Metropolitan Division to have special negotiators come out and try and talk the suspect out of the location.
And nothing further.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective, regarding the Ford Bronco, at some point in time, did that vehicle have some evidentiary value in and of itself?
Yes.
When did you determine it had evidentiary value?
After looking at all of the scene that I saw there, and as it began to lighten up that morning after seeing the blood trail in the driveway, I could see into the vehicle and see additional blood inside the vehicle, and at that point it became a very important evidentiary item.
What time was that?
Probably around right after I saw the blood trail in the driveway.
What time was that?
That would have been, again, I will have to estimate, that would have probably been around 6:45 to 7 o'clock, something like that.
And what steps did you take to secure that vehicle and preserve the evidence?
I instructed the detectives that the vehicle was to be impounded, it was to be guarded, and I told the criminalist who responded at 7:10 that it was of evidentiary value to photograph, obtain any items of evidence that he could from the outside, and to protect the vehicle.
Were your instructions followed?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Did you have any reports that the media surrounded the car, they couldn't keep the media away from it, and coffee cups were put on the car and coffee spilled?
No, sir, I was not aware of that.
What do you mean by securing the premises?
In what context?
It's a
Mr.
term you
Shapiro?
use. You used that all this morning. I secured the premises. What do you mean by that?
Well, in a literal sense, that's a police term that's used. In a literal sense, it can mean a couple of things.
What did you mean by it when you used it this morning?
Okay, what I meant this morning is a check of the location to make sure that everything's okay, that there's no forced entry into the home, that there's nobody injured, that there's nobody down, or nobody in need of assistance.
What time did you make that determination, that the residence was secure?
What time did I make the determination that it was secured? That again would have been, I believe, after walking back outside and being notified that Mr. Simpson was in Chicago, that he had been talked to, and that he was en route back to Los Angeles, that the maid was not present at the location, and that nobody else was found there. And that would have been probably 6:45 to 7 in the morning.
You later determined that the bedrooms for the house itself, not the guest bedrooms, but the main bedrooms, were on the second story, did you not?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Ms. Clark, anything else?
Well, Detective Van Adder, if you were concerned, sir, about the welfare of people inside the residence, why didn't you go upstairs and look to see if somebody was up there?
I had determined, before I had a chance to do that, that the main person that we were concerned about, in fact, the main two people we were concerned about, Mr. Simpson and the maid, were accounted for. And was also told that there was no one else at the location.
Anything further?
Mr. Shapiro, anything further? Thank you, Detective. You may step down. Please do not discuss your testimony with anyone, except the attorneys. Next witness.
Yes. No further witnesses for the people, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Shapiro, do you intend to present some evidence with regard to this motion?
Yes, Your Honor. The first piece of evidence that we will present is already part of the court record, and that's the search warrant affidavit.
There'll be an objection.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, I thought you completed.
That has been signed under penalty of perjury by Detective Van Adder, and is part of the court record and part of the proceedings that we filed with this court. We'd like the court to consider that. In addition, we want to call the criminalist for the Los Angeles Police Department, Mr. Fung. And we have two other civilian witnesses, three other civilian witnesses.
All right. Ms. Clark, with reference to the search warrant affidavit, do you wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. First of all, I think that Mr. Shapiro has failed to lay a foundation. He has not questioned the detective concerning whether this affidavit was written by him or he is the affiant or this is the search warrant for this location. That would be easily laid, but he's failed to do so. Secondly, it's not an issue. We are not litigating this search warrant, and any of the assertions contained therein do not pertain to the state of mind that was prevailing at the moment the decision was made to go over the wall. That is the only state of mind and the only set of circumstances that are now an issue before this court. Therefore, this warrant and any averments that are contained therein are irrelevant.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes, the warrant, the copy that I have is a warrant signed under penalty of perjury by Philip L. Van Adder, who I believe is the witness here, since he describes himself as being the same person who testified as a police detective from the Los Angeles Police Department assigned to robbery and homicide special section, and he's been a police officer for over 25 years. If there is another Van Adder who has such similar credentials and has been employed with the same exact name and same badge number, then we will take the court's time to establish the foundation.
Mr. Shapiro, what is your legal theory for the admissibility of this document?
This document is evidence. This is evidence that is sworn under penalty of perjury that is part of the official court record in this case. There are, in this warrant, in our opinion,
Salty, don't you dare listen to Fozzie. Discord is free. It's free.
4 material misrepresentations that go to impeach the credibility of Detective Van Adder in his testimony here today.
All right.
It is
What,
offered only for the
Mr.
purpose of impeachment.
All right, Mr. Shapiro, basically this document is hearsay. The fact that it is declared to be true under penalty of perjury does not relieve it from the category of hearsay. And for an exception to apply, and there may be some exception to certain portions of that warrant or the affidavit, I don't know that, but if there are some inconsistent statements with the testimony here, conceivably portions of that may in fact be admissible, but just to offer the affidavit as such in a whole is hearsay without any exception, and so I'm going to sustain the objection unless you intend to do more. Yes.
Under Proposition 115, there is not a valid objection without due respect to the court. Number 2, all...
Well, just a minute. I'll let you speak, Mr. Shapiro, but Proposition 115 does not apply to a suppression motion.
All,
So the hearsay exception under 115 would not apply to the suppression hearing.
I believe all relevant evidence is admissible, and that hearsay evidence on a prior inconsistent statement is an exception to the hearsay rule and would be admissible. We'll submit the matter to you.
All right. On just the basis of the affidavit, offering that without any sort of foundation, without any testimony from a live witness with regard to that statement, the hearsay objection and the relevance objections would apply, and I would not receive the affidavit in this form.
Your Honor, we'd like to recall Officer Van Adder, please.
All right. I think I've said this before. You remain under oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Detective Van Adder, are you the affiant in search warrant number 94-0093?
Yes.
And that's a document, a copy of which has been handed to me, which consists of, the affidavit itself consists of 2.5 pages, 2.25 pages, actually.
I believe that's correct, yes.
Let me just show it to you, make sure we're talking about the same
Okay.
document. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes. Did you wish to mark that as an exhibit?
Yes.
H.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, that appears to be a copy of it, yes.
It appears to be, or it's...
Well, it's a copy of the original, yes.
And where's the original, if you know?
The original was returned to the court.
And filed as part of this case?
Yes.
Thank you. And you executed this affidavit under penalty of perjury, did you not?
That's correct.
In the affidavit, you indicated the following: detectives observed what appeared to be human blood, later confirmed by scientific investigation personnel to be human blood on the driver's door handle of the vehicle. Did you write that, sir?
Yes, I did.
When did scientific investigation personnel tell you that it was human blood on the door handle?
Objection, irrelevant. Your Honor, counsel is trying to backdoor a motion to traverse and quash, and as we've indicated earlier, nothing pursuant to the warrant is being offered. In order to get into issues concerning the validity of the warrant, something has to be offered by the people that was seized pursuant thereto, and it's not. The state of mind of this officer at the time he wrote the warrant is irrelevant to the state of mind that he had that bore upon his decision to go over the wall. And none of these questions concerning the veracity or the accuracy of the statements contained in this affidavit are relevant.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes, Your Honor, we are only offering this for impeachment as it goes to credibility of this witness. Your Honor is going to have to make a decision on credibility regarding whether or not the testimony that has been proffered here to Your Honor is in fact credible testimony. As one of the criteria for making your evaluation as to whether or not evidence should be suppressed. In evaluating the credibility of a witness, we are certainly entitled to use previous testimony under oath for purposes of impeachment on a relevant issue, not on a collateral issue. This is a relevant issue. This is testimony given under oath by this detective. It is relevant and material to his credibility, and that's the only purpose for which it is used. We are not seeking to quash or traverse this search warrant or to do anything in regard with the search warrant. In fact, quite the contrary. We offered to use this without any testimony.
I was under the impression, Mr. Shapiro, that your offer of proof before indicated that there were some prior inconsistent statements I think you mentioned
That's
in this affidavit that would be inconsistent with the witness's testimony here in court. Is that correct?
Your Honor, some are inconsistent with his statements in court. I believe in court that he did testify that it was human blood. And I believe the affidavit, I don't believe, the affidavit says SID personnel found it to be human blood, and we will offer testimony from their own chemist that he did not come to that conclusion. So that, we would say, is a major question of credibility with this witness, and an out-and-out misstatement under penalty of perjury to the court.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
No, it's not. It's exactly not that. This witness has testified consistently. He believed it to be human blood when he was at the scene, and in the affidavit it contains his belief that it was human blood. If he's wrong, if he was wrong then, and he was wrong when he presented this affidavit as to what he believed the scientific investigations person concluded with respect to his testing, that he's consistent. Maybe wrong, but consistent. And there is no impeachment contained in this affidavit with respect to that point. And I once again do reiterate that the state of mind that this officer had at the time he was seeking to obtain the warrant has no bearing on the determination of whether or not exigent circumstances applied to permit the entry without a warrant at the time that it was made. All of the inquiry that I know Mr. Shapiro intends to go into concerning this affidavit is irrelevant to the circumstances that are confronting this court and the issues that are being presented here concerning the exigent circumstances. But it's, at least with respect to that one showing, it certainly is not even an inconsistent prior statement.
The way I see it, Mr. Shapiro, is that if in fact there is an inconsistent statement with regard to something that the detective testified to during the course of the proceeding, then that would be admissible. But we're not going to create straw men to shoot down later that were not part of the testimony. So the objection at this point is sustained.
To that question, may I ask another
Yes.
question?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ullman, may I just confirm, Mr. Ullman?
Yes.
Your Honor, the real question, and Mr. Ullman has phrased it in these terms, the real issue for Your Honor to determine is whether Detective Van Adder would lie in order to sustain a search. And if we have evidence that he lied on a search warrant in order to obtain that, that goes to his credibility here as to whether or not he would lie to sustain a search.
Mr. Shapiro, I'm not going to go into what I agree with the prosecution would amount to a traversal of the search warrant, since the prosecution has indicated that they are, in fact, not going to offer any of the evidence that was recovered after its execution.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's one other issue, and perhaps I'll just do it as an offer of proof. We would offer to ask this officer the following. Whether in the affidavit he submitted, he told...
Objection, Your Honor. I don't see an offer of proof as necessary. Either counsel may ask the question of the witness, and it's a proper question or not, or not ask the question, but I don't see what is the purpose of making a record of an offer of proof as to questions that will not be posed.
Why don't you just ask the question? Mr.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Van Adder, did you, in your statement to the magistrate judge under penalty of perjury, indicate the following? It was determined by interview of Simpson's daughter and a friend, Brian Kalin. Simpson had left on an unexpected flight to Chicago during the early morning hours of June 13, 1994, and was last seen at the residence at approximately 2300 hours, June 12, 1994.
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Can there be an objection to the question and ask that the answer be stricken as being irrelevant?
Overruled. Ms. Clark, do you have any questions for the detective?
No, I have no questions, thank you, Your Honor.
You may step down, thank you.
We would call Mr. Fung.
Your Honor? With
Yes.
respect to the questioning that has already occurred, I would ask the counsel to give us an offer of proof as to the relevance of the testimony of this witness, in light of the fact that he has indicated, I believe, during the cross-examination of Detective Van Adder, that he intends to prove that the criminalist could not come up with a conclusion as to whether or not it was human or animal blood. There is no relevance to that inquiry at this time.
Well, I'm not going to require an offer of proof at this point in time. They've indicated they intend to call this witness, and I'll let you ask your questions, at least initially, and see if we're in relevant
Thank you, Your Honor.
testimony.
We need to summon him. Is he waiting in the hall?
No?
Your Honor, we indicated 2 days ago that we intended to call Mr. Fung as a witness, and were informed that he would be at the courthouse. In fact, the prosecution indicated that they were going to call Mr. Fung as well.
Well, that was the only representation I remember, was I indicated to counsel I may or may not call Dennis Fung. And as far as I know, the criminalist was never under defense subpoena. And if he had been, I certainly would have arranged for him to be here and assisted counsel in that regard, but I was not of the impression that counsel wanted to call him. In fact, I can't think of an admissible, a theory of admissibility for his testimony in any event, but
Aside
that's
from,
irrelevant.
yes, aside from the theory of admissibility, I do recall that we did discuss this in chambers. And so I believe that I heard that discussion.
Yes.
And I don't know that any specific dates or times were mentioned, but my recollection is that Mr. Ullman asked you whether Mr. Fung was going to be available, and I believe you indicated that he would be. And then secondly, when I asked, I believe yesterday, as to which witnesses were going to testify, he was one of the names that you gave me as a witness that you intended to call. So I take it that Mr. Fung is not here in the courthouse at this time.
He's not, but I can certainly make him available immediately. I will have him called immediately, Your Honor. As I understood, what I intended to convey was that I was tentative as to whether I would call Mr. Fung. That when I was...
Well, I'm not faulting you or holding you to anything based on that. I think it was an honest misunderstanding, and one apparently that we can easily rectify.
Yes.
And so we will do that. Do you have a witness that is present here that you can call while we're waiting for the arrival of Mr.
We can
Fung?
recall Mr. Kalin, and we do have 2 other witnesses who are available.
All right, is Mr. Kalin available here in the courthouse?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Then let's get Mr. Kalin, and can somebody on your behalf, since you have all the phone numbers and so forth, contact the crime lab to have Mr. Fung?
Yes, Your Honor, right away. Thank
All
you.
right.
Kalin?
So we get Kaylin back. I have a feeling that this is going to be the whole trial. We're going to keep seeing the celebrities come back up.
Mr. Kalin is apparently on the elevator.
All right.
I can't wait to get to the trial.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Fung is on his way.
Thank you.
He should be here very shortly. And Mr. Kalin is also on his way. And will be here even more shortly.
I don't know, those elevators.
Yeah,
Mr.
this-
Fung might get here first.
Maybe we'll take it there.
Oh, please let us see that phone.
Who's ringing?
Please let us see that phone. Please. I'm begging you. Oh, it's a BlackBerry, right? Was that a BlackBerry? Hold on, Fozzie, 1 second. Come on.
Your Honor,
Yes,
may I use the bailiff's phone just for a moment while we're waiting for the witness?
yes.
I apologize, Your Honor, I've given the pager to an investigator to take numbers off of it, and apparently he forgot to turn it back off.
Okay.
You know I wanted to see a Nokia. I wanted to see a flip phone. Okay, nice tie. I like it. We didn't actually get to see the phone. I just knew it was a BlackBerry by the way she picked it up and was typing on it. I just put his image up. You're right, that's very different than what I put up.
If I read the bench, it would be 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
They were, but my first IT job was help desk where I took care of 5,000 Blackberries. This trunking company. I hate Blackberries now.
All right, Mr. Kalin, you've previously been sworn and remain under oath. Please have a seat in the witness stand. State and spell your name for the record.
Hi, Brian Cato Kalin, Brian Kato Kaelin.
Thank you. Mr. Ullman.
Thank you. Mr. Kalin, returning to the morning of Monday, June the 13th, were you awakened that morning by police officers?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell us approximately what time they woke you up?
I think approximately between 5 and 6 a.m.
And where were you at that time?
in bed.
And would you indicate on the chart where your bedroom is located?
There.
All right, you're pointing to what is labeled Cato's room on the chart?
Yes.
right? Now, how many,
Yeah, that's not fair. You cheated. You put his name right on there. Of course he's going to find it.
officers were at the door? when
Four.
you awoke?
4 officers.
4 officers? Now, what's the first thing they said to you?
Okay. There was banging at the door, and I was asleep, and I was startled, and I said, "Who's there?" They said, "The police."
All right.
That was the first word said.
Did you then go to the door?
Then I looked to make sure, and I just saw 4 guys in suits, coat and tie, and I opened the door. I put a shirt on and opened the door.
All right. And what's the first thing they said to you after you opened the door?
I don't know if the exact order, what was my name, and do I live here? Who else lives here? Came up, and I don't know, I was shaking, so.
Did they ask you any questions about the whereabouts of Mr. Simpson?
At some point, it came up, and I said Chicago.
All right. Was that in this initial conversation at the door when they awoke you?
I don't remember. There was a conversation where I said that, though.
All right. So the first time you were asked where Mr. Simpson was, you told the officers he was in Chicago.
I said yes, he was in Chicago.
All right. Did the officers ever indicate to you any concern about a suicide or murder occurring on the premises?
Okay, say that again.
Did the officers ever indicate to you any concern about a suicide or a murder occurring on the premises at Rockingham?
No.
Did they ever indicate to you that they were concerned about any injured persons on the premises?
No.
Did they enter your room?
One officer went to my room.
Did they ask you about your clothing?
Yes.
What did they ask you?
He said, "What did you wear yesterday?" So I pointed out what I wore yesterday,
All right.
and he looked at it.
Did he pick up the clothing and examine it?
He picked up a pair of my shoes and examined it.
All right. Did he look at the bottom of your shoes?
Yes.
At some point, did he tell you to leave the room?
Objection, this has all been leading, Your Honor. This witness on direct, as I understand it.
Overruled as to that question. You can answer the question.
Oh, say it again.
At some point, did he ask you to leave the room?
Yes, at some point.
At what point was that? How long had he been in the room?
Well, I remember saying I thought OJ's plane had crashed or something and something was wrong, and I was talking to him. I don't remember everything I was saying, but I think it was rattling. And after talking to him, he asked me to go out, and I was with the other 3 guys.
All right. And where did they take you then?
You know, in my room, when I walk out, there's...
Yes.
Okay, there's cement right there, right under the doorway. I was right there talking to them.
All right. And then did they take you to another part of the house?
Yes, after talking to me, I also pointed to Arnell's room. They asked me, "Who else is here?" I said, "OJ's daughter Arnell lives over there," and so I pointed to her door.
And then did they take you to another part of the house?
Yeah, after they got Arnell.
All right. Did Arnell take some of the officers into the house?
I think so, because I don't have a key, so I know I didn't open it, so if someone did, I think so. I think she led them in the back doorway, and I followed.
Now, up to this point, had they informed you why they were there or what they were investigating?
No.
Did you give them any further information about Mr. Simpson's whereabouts?
Just in Chicago. That's what I knew. He went to the airport, went to Chicago.
Did they ask you when he had left for Chicago?
I think so. I don't remember. I think I probably said it.
Do you recall what you said?
That he took a limo to the airport to go to Chicago.
Did they ask you any questions about the Ford Bronco that was parked in front of the premises?
When I was inside the house, just asked where the keys were for the Bronco, if there was an extra set of keys. So I was looking for them, I couldn't find them.
And at some point, were you asked to leave the premises at 360 North Rockingham?
To wait outside on Ashford.
All right, and what time did they ask you to do that?
Approximately 7:30, 7:38 a.m.
All right. Now, when you say wait outside on Ashford, you mean they actually asked you to just stand out on the street?
Well, I was let outside, and yeah, they asked me to kind of wait on Ashford, and they said I was going to be taken to another station. That two officers, two uniformed officers, were going to take me down there, but it was for an interview.
And how were you dressed at that point?
I don't know if I had my pajamas on or not still. I might have. I think I had put my jeans on. But I had I know I had a blue shirt on. Blue.
Did they ever permit you to go back into your room after they asked you to step out of the room?
Yes.
And for what purpose?
I think to put pants on.
All right, and you were accompanied by an officer at that time?
I don't remember. I don't remember if I was or not. I think I was on my own. I'm not positive.
Are there any windows in the back wall of your room?
The back wall of my bedroom, no, there's a bathroom that has a window.
All right, would you point out to us where that bathroom is?
Right here.
All right. And could you describe that window?
It's a window with a screen on it, and you turn a little handle to open it up, and it opens that way.
Swings out?
It swings out.
Was the window open that evening?
I usually don't have it open, so it probably was not opened.
Did you just turn a little crank and it opens it up?
Yeah, I only sometimes crack for a shower so the windows don't steam.
And you leave the crank in the window?
I leave the crank in the window.
Thank you. Nothing.
Ms. Clark?
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, Mr. Kalin.
Good afternoon.
Now, you got woken up by the officers at about, what'd you say, between 5 and 6 a.m.?
Yes,
What time did you go to bed that night?
I went to bed about 1:30 a.m.
So when they woke you up, you'd had maybe 3 to 4 hours sleep?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 hours sleep.
Were you pretty tired when they woke you up?
Yes,
Would you say you were a little bit disoriented when they woke you up?
yes,
And a little bit confused about what these officers were doing here at your door at 5:30 to 6 a.m. in the morning?
yes.
Doesn't happen every day, does it, sir?
No, it doesn't happen every day.
Thank goodness. And when they woke you up and they said police and started asking your name and whether you lived there, were you a little bit taken off guard?
Yes,
But they were asking you who else lived in your guest unit? Is that what you understood when they were asking who else lives here?
I think I said it was OJ's house, and I lived in the guest house, and I mentioned Arnell's name was living there also.
Now, you had a conversation, let me ask you this. You pointed out Arnell's unit at some point, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And some of the officers went over to that unit, didn't they?
Yes,
And one of the officers stayed with you, is that right?
yes,
And while that officer stayed with you, he asked you about whether anything unusual had happened the night before, didn't he?
yes,
And when he asked you whether something had happened the night before that was unusual, you told him about the thumps, didn't you?
yes, I did.
And then you went on to recount for that officer everything that had happened that night, including seeing the limo driver out there waiting for the defendant and seeing the defendant go to the airport. Is that right?
Say the question again, slower. You, at what point?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I do talk fast. You were telling him all of the events that happened that night. Is that right?
Right, there was 2 separate times, so.
I know that. So first you're talking about what happened that night with this one officer standing by your guest room. Is that right?
Right, I think that was, his name's Mark.
Mark, okay. And you were telling him what had happened
Yes,
the night before June 12th.
yes,
And when you told him what happened, did you tell him about the thumps?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell him about being scared and thinking it might be an earthquake or a prowler?
Yes, I did.
Did you then tell him that after hearing those thumps at some point, you went outside to go and check on what had caused those noises?
No, I don't know if that was Mark that time or not. It was a detective I told that to.
He's like a little puppy dog.
Might
don't
you have
know.
told, excuse me, let me finish. Might you have told that to Mark as well?
I might have.
Okay. And when you were telling that to Mark when you were describing what had happened to Mark at that time, were you still kind of scared about what had caused those noises?
That night I was scared the night in the sleep.
You mean, you
So
were,
I was thinking about that noise pretty much all night.
so when you
Right.
went to bed that night, you were still scared about the noises?
Yeah, I mean, I still wanted to know what that was.
And when those officers woke you up,
You do that all the time to me.
did that make you concerned that maybe the noises you had heard were related to them being there?
You mean if they were doing the noise?
No.
What?
Then maybe they were there investigating what caused the noises also. Maybe they knew something about that?
Oh, I didn't think that.
You didn't put that together?
No.
But anyway, Mark, that detective, stayed back with you at the guest room and told him about the noises. Is that right?
I can't be 100% positive, but I did tell the story twice.
Okay.
And someone wrote down, I don't know which detective was that, wrote something down.
Okay. You told the story twice, and you know that one detective stayed with you while the others went with Arnell.
When I first came out of her room.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And so you might have told that detective about hearing the noises on your guest wall. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, that bathroom window that you were talking about, how big is it?
It's, see this desk from about here to the end here, and about the same complete style. Not wooden, but it's the window. It's the same style, rectangle.
It's a
So it's
rectangle.
about 1.5 feet up. It goes that way.
High. Okay, so about 3.5 feet high and about a foot wide?
Yes. The same style, rectangle.
It's a
So it's
rectangle.
about
Good job, Kato. That was a good job. You did it. Oh, man. Yeah, that's true. What do you mean it matters not? What the heck do you play football for then if it's not for the Super Bowl? That is all that matters. That's why you play the game. Sorry, I'm a Steelers fan. Okay. No, that's it. We did it. We did another OJ today. Go to sleep, people. Go eat. I'm going to eat. I haven't had dinner yet. It's 7:30 a.m. the next day. I'm gonna go eat and get ready for Judge Fleischer's courtroom. Guys, it was a great day. Thank you so much for coming out. We had a great day today, and I'll see you probably in in 2 hours. Okay? Be good. Bye, guys. Thank you.